By far, one of the most glaring omissions from Kislev from the very beginning was a lack of a proper, heroic, legendary mount for the Ice Queen herself. Now Tsarina Katarin rocking this incredible sled chariot mount, which is quite a doozy. Let's take a look at some of the stats and the visuals as it charges in here. You notice it does have a missile attack. These two ice guards on the back will fire their bows. They have a little explosive ice shot that does apply frostbite at range, 160 range on that. Doesn't do an insane amount of damage, but certainly applying frostbite at range is quite good. Of course, armor-piercing anti-infantry. The mass stat on here looks impressive, but the more important thing to consider is that the animations and the unit's size class are both very good. The size class in particular is very important because it essentially means that units' mass against Tsarina's sled is essentially halved. So it is an insanely effective chariot. Maybe too effective, perhaps. We'll see at the end of this replay what we think. We've also got the new legendary hero, the Golden Knight Nariska Lesa. She is just looking absolutely spectacular in her heavy armor. She's also incredibly strong, introducing some new mechanics as well, including silence. Yes, that's right. Silence is now in the game. A true silence which prevents opponents from using any spells or abilities, any activatable spells or abilities. This aura, of course, also negates magic weapons, which synergizes great with her upgraded Guardian, 20% physical resistance, and immune to flanking, another new mechanic and modifier introduced in this update, which a few units or abilities have. I think the only unit that innately has this actually right now is the Bastildon, which I'm sure you'll see later. Blizzardman did get quite a few updates in this, so we'll talk about that on another day. Also, all Kislev cavalry and some other units in general, like Cetra's Chariot, get this glorious charge, which the charge duration is doubled, which means the charge bonus lasts twice as long, which is quite good. Also applies additional leadership debuffs. So when you think about something like the Winged Lancers that already apply fear, they also get this glorious charge, so they're going to be quite effective breaking the leadership of units charging in the flank. Of course, we've got the Patriarch there as well, just to round out this disgusting hero squad with some healing. He's also going to benefit from all of the heroic abilities of Nariska as well. We've also got the new Kislevite Warriors. These are halberd infantry, essentially. They've got these cool little bill hooks, and they're looking like absolute chads. Wow, some giant pitchforks as well. Look at those. And kind of poleaxe looking things. They are quite decent for the stats. Not a lot of armor, but armor-piercing anti-large. Loose formations also pretty nice. A couple of Streltsy as well. And some Kossar spears to round things out up against some Chaos Dwarfs. We've got Gorda's Backstabber leading some Wolf Raiders around the side. We've got some Orc Laborers, and looks like 3 Infernal Guard Fireglaves, and 3 Trains, 2 Skullcrackers, and an Iron Demon Overseer leading the way. My opponent, the legendary Okoy, the Halfling Barbarian Master himself. Did forget to bring a caster, but that's fine. Such is the way of things occasionally. But the main focus of this replay is going to be Katarin's new sleigh, because it certainly does slay, and you can see how it's just going to absolutely immediately, and look at that turn radius too. I'm going to try and get an overhead look if I can, but she's pretty easily just going to be able to run through masses of infantry, no problem. In fact, the only thing really, wow, look at that kind of whipping around. Yeah, she has an extremely tight turn radius, which is great for escaping as well. Like, this is probably the best chariot in the game right now. By far. The fact that it can turn on a dime like that, the fact that it has such insane mass as well. Watch this as it kind of side runs through. Oh yeah, these Infernal Guards who had been getting hit by my Horse Archers a bit there. But between the mass, yeah, I haven't really tested a lot against cavalry. I did do some testing. Unfortunately, I forgot to save the replay against Greenskins infantry and monstrous infantry. I will say, monstrous infantry, like trolls, can stop her as she runs through another unit of Infernal Guards in her Heart of Winter here. Yeah, she can run through infantry, any infantry in the game, no problem, pretty much. And monstrous infantry, not so much. Something like trolls, chaos spawn, stuff like that will be able to stop her up if they can get a surround on her. Granted, it is pretty hard to surround because it's such a huge unit model, but when you do, because the unit model is so massive, a lot of unit models are actually getting hits on it. Like, we did a little test where she got surrounded by, like, stone trolls and, you know, river trolls, and she ended up taking damage very, very quickly. She doesn't have a lot of HP, but certainly, I mean, it's like 7,000 base, but with the Patriarch and Nerissa, she's going to be healing and taking very little damage. Negation of magic damage means that physical resistance may as well be damage resistance within that close area of effect. Of course, if you're using Nerissa to try and snipe enemy casters or just generally shut them down from using any spells or abilities, that'll also help protect Katarin from something like Mass Spirit Leech or other spell snipe abilities. But yeah, so far seems insanely strong, and certainly some factions which have very little ability to shut something like this down are going to struggle big time. Dwarfs are very much going to have to rely on their slows and other effects to try and pin her down and deal damage very quickly with like Giant Slayers or something, try and burst her down. And yeah, it's probably going to completely change quite a few matchups, in particular, like I said, Dwarfs. Really any heavy infantry matchups are going to get absolutely terrorized by Tsarina, and even in matchups where you don't expect necessarily mass heavy infantry, it's still, I think she's going to be quite strong. It's going to be a relatively short battle. I didn't really highlight too much of what else was going on, to be honest. The Streltsy had been contributing nicely, helping to gun down the trains there. You can see that continuing on. Gorda's moving through, had been nicely contested by the Kossar Spears in the back line. And of course, Kislev Warriors fighting quite well against Laborers, no problem. I actually did expect them to trade a little bit worse against the Laborers, but I think just the shock power of Katarin just running over so many of them really tilted things against them, obviously. But Nerissa also, again, she's just here to support whatever Lord hero character. Really, she's not that strong of a combatant in and of herself. She does get Frostbite, which is, of course, always nice. Lots of Kislev Frostbite. Weapon strength's not incredible. Got decent armor and combat stats, but not, like, the best in the world, but really more of, like, a heroic support character, and probably the best heroic support character in the game as a result, so definitely really interesting. Kislev is probably the biggest winner overall, I would say, out of these new updates. I mean, it remains to be seen. It's certainly early, and I've only had maybe 8 to 10 games with the new updates so far. And a lot of the new stuff is pretty good. Cathay, it's okay. I mean, Cathay probably benefits the least. Really, Setang, I think, will be the only thing that sees regular use. Tzeentch is pretty interesting. I do like their characters in particular, and the Centaurs also give you, like, cavalry option, which is really nice. Even though they're pretty expensive, you have to be a little bit careful about how you use them. But yeah, I mean, come on. Katarin, 426 kills, 34,000 damage dealt. I mean, granted, a lot of that is just Laborers, but she did almost single-handedly kill all 3 of these Infernal Guards as well. Keep that in mind. So some of that is real value, almost 3,000 damage value. Just absolutely bonkers. And, I mean, it gives, yeah, unless they've made some tweaks, I haven't totally reviewed the patch notes. I'll probably have a video, you know, either today or tomorrow, sometime in the next short while, with the patch notes reviewing them. I don't know if they gave Cetra any changes to a chariot besides the Glorious Charge. I did spot that one, but I didn't notice, like, you know, if they changed, like, his entity size from large to very large, or, you know, upgrade his mass or anything. But Tsarina might have a better chariot, must be said. Needs testing, but she's probably the best chariot in the game. Streltsy also, I think they might have gotten a slight buff, I'm not sure, but they also perform quite well here, helping to gun down the trains. You know, the rest of the Kislev force contributes nicely. Kislev Warriors are awesome because they fill a niche in Kislev's roster, so even if they weren't that amazing, they would be good, but they are actually legitimately pretty nice. They can kind of get killed by other lower tier stuff that's better combat stats occasionally, but still overall pretty strong. Hit a valiant effort from McCoy here. I mean, neither of us understood exactly how broken Tsarina's chariot was until I brought it in this battle. So, I mean, that's why we do these things, is so that we can learn. But I figured you guys would want to see just the absolute anarchy that Slay causes in this kind of an infantry-heavy composition, certainly. Very interesting. Hopefully you guys enjoy that. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.